Martin, please.
And like other members of the upper house, to thank you most sincerely for your generosity of time and making yourselves available in what is an innovative exercise, and I think it's one that will be here to stay. My one question is, do you believe the EU is sufficiently, their voice is being heard and are doing sufficiently enough in the area of world peace? It was a triggering foundation, cornerstone for the very foundation of the Union. And it should be a force of good. It is a peace project. And at its heart should be humanitarian support. And very recently, with the shocking development in Afghanistan, and not only was it an abandonment of people, but done in such an abrupt way with no consideration for the people on the ground. And I'm just wondering, is there a greater potential for the EU, for their voice to be heard? I'm opposed to militarisation, but I'm very enthusiastic for the great population and power, potential power of good that the EU can be, to be centre stage there. Because whether properly consulted, the US, the UN, I heard of Britain, but what about the EU to be front and centre of the humanitarian efforts in Afghanistan? I'd love to hear your views on that. Thank you.
Thank you indeed. Senator Martin, who is on rotation at this time? Is it? Yeah. Senator Walsh.
Thank you very much, Senator. First of all, for your enthusiasm of talking about fundamentally the peace project that built and still continues to build our European Union. To your point, I don't agree we're doing enough. I don't believe we have the answers quite yet. And I say that with the reaction we had when Afghanistan was taken over by the Taliban over the last number of weeks, in terms of the initial reaction, particularly in groups and indeed in committee level, was where do we house refugees and asylums? How do we protect our own versus welcoming in? A fundamental loss into, as you say, why we built the European Union. There's certainly opportunity to fix and work on our reception centres and the welcoming in that we give, moving people through, as promised through the Asylum Pact, of less than 6 weeks, and finding forever homes within the European Union, working again with VET opportunities and bringing people through education streams, particularly protecting women and minority groups faster and with ease. I also do believe, not just stepping aside from Afghanistan, I think we have a lot of work to do at home also, in this country as well as across the EU. It was previously mentioned around Hungary and Poland. We still have, since 2008, the Anti-Discrimination Directive has been blocked by members of the Council. When you think so many years on, that is the cornerstone and the fundamental foundation for what you just shared in terms of the peace project. Protecting minority groups, anti-discrimination, both hate online and offline. So I think that needs to move and us to clean up the fact that our refugee and asylum process is simply too slow.
Very much indeed for that. MEP Martin.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the question. In relation, look, I think this is a critical question at this juncture. As I mentioned earlier, the change in the Afghanistan situation, the tone's been set from America and the like. Europe has always been a considered voice on the world stage, a moderate. It's always had a positive influence, probably born out of its history. Let's consider the great wars were all in Europe, and we hopefully learned a lot from them. I have a worry at this stage that is changing somewhat. And there's a need for us to go back to making sure, particularly from an Irish perspective, that our peacekeeping mentality is where we need to start from. And I think there's a need to set a world agenda driven by Europe that isn't about a superpower or isn't about militarisation. It's about how you play the part of being that moderate, but being proactive in terms of a response in somewhere like Afghanistan, where there's clear human rights issues and clear human rights needs. How you do that without just being another boots on the ground, violence, I won't say call it violence, but boots on the ground military response. We have to, in some way, move away from the superpower model to a global model. And Europe is the very influence that can drive that agenda, because we've never, as a bloc, gone down the strong military route. And if you look at the one thing that concerned me in Ursula von der Leyen's speech last week was the talk of, let's say, taking the VAT of military investment. And the talk at that level that there are voices in Europe who would like to be a big player on the world stage, and they see that as a superpower with military muscle. I think that is a retrograde step for the world at large, and I think we as Irish who have a fundamental understanding of this need to voice strongly in this debate so that that doesn't happen.